Look who's back. Another rescue from the Hive. I don't know, I can't shake this game right now. It's just really that good. Checking in, I'm in game turn 4 here. So this time you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it was a typo in here when it said that for the solitaire game there was only 70 points, 70 resource points, case 24.1. I decided to try that as 80 like it says in the main rules. So I took a chance. I got 5 darters, even though I knew that that would up the chances of me taking damage. Would you believe it? I rolled a 1, which means 0, so there was no damage whatsoever. So all 5 of them survived, along with all their units, which you can see. I'll take you through the board. These ones just entered this room. We entered this room earlier. One is under mind control. These ones are entering this room, and I decided to do a full-on assault straight away, right up the hallways to enter the laser area, so I could take out those engines early in the game while we still have a lot of time, and then come back and find the hostages. I'm playing the same game as before, trying to find the hostages. Now, the reason that I'm checking in is because of this. When I was rereading these again, when rolling for the placement of units in the laser area, re-roll if a table indicates that a unit be deployed in boxes 12, 13, 14, or 15. Add 2 to the die roll in the nest population table when determining the number of units to be deployed in the laser area. So there's a little bit of a modifier as far as that goes. So when you are looking nest deployment table, you just, when determining the number of units, the nest population table here. So you just add 2, which means that it's just going to be a little more of a chance for there to be more units in that area, which isn't a bad thing. I feel like I'm really stacked here as far as who's available, so I'm not super worried about it. Yeah, I don't know, I was just kind of excited, found that little bit of a rule. Really feel like, now that I've got the hang of it, these first 4 turns have really flown by. It feels like, I'm still kind of keeping the rules open here and referring when I need to, but for the most part, it's much easier to handle. You'll also notice that the hallways are clear of Xenon-controlled forces there. I managed to, because I had so many guys, a couple of them got placed over here, and then there was a few that got placed on that top row. We took care of them pretty quickly. I was able to incapacitate a couple of them in a ranged combat, and then when it came to the melee combat phase, I was able to then kill them very easily. When they're incapacitated, they have a melee combat that's 3 less than they're printed. For example, if we were attacking this queen here and it was incapacitated, it would be a 4 minus 3, so just a 1 would get subtracted from whichever unit was attacking, so it would be 7 minus 1 instead of 7 minus 4, if that makes any sense. There we go. I'm gonna populate this. I might do a couple of more videos here just to see how this one plays out, because like I said, I can't get enough of this game. Alright, so we had a queen spawn in one of the engine rooms again, and then of course 1 unit goes in with them. We had another, or 2 rather, land up in the laser pods, 1 over there and 1 over here, and then 1 in the main kind of room with us here. But the big reveal is this room here. We have drawn the Master Queen, which is the 6-1. Now, what happens is, when the Master Queen is drawn, you roll on the nest population table, which we did, and we got a 6, which means that we pick 2 chits from mix D. One of them at random goes with the queen. The other one goes off to the side, and then we take every unit that was in the mix B cup, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We mix them all face down. This is all face down now. And what we're going to do is, we're going to mix that up so I don't see what they are. What we do is we put them into stacks of 2 randomly. And as we're deploying them, we're going to be deploying them face down. So what we end up getting is 5 stacks. 4 stacks of 2 and 1 on its own. Then we do the same thing from the nest deployment table, which is down here. First dice you read there, second dice you read there, cross-reference to see what room they go in. And they're going to get placed face down, in mixed in this room. Mix B, of course, is the mix that has the hostages in it. So that allows us now to narrow down our search. We don't need to search any more rooms looking for that random draw. We now know that it depends on what happens up here. I was going to feed these units all up into here as well to help fight and shut down the engines. But now that I know this is happening, there's entrances on both sides of these hives or areas here. I might send them all in this way so we can make a quick work of this room and kill us off some Xenons and grab the hostages and get the hell off of this ship. Kind of exciting. So this will be a first time for this, so I think now I will continue filming, and I'll show you how this ends off here. There you go, take a look at those stacks. We've just kicked Xenon ass this time. We've had our first casualty on our side from some ranged combat from this guy here. Sorry, let me turn this around the other way. From this guy here, he was able to fire, because it's that one room, firing through one doorway, he was able to kill this guy. This unit was able to enter, he survived, because, oh no, this guy wasn't able to do a ranged combat. They both, he survived, so he was able to go into the engine room with 2 movement points. He had, its costs, as you remember from before, maybe you do, it costs 1 movement point each time you want to attempt demolition. On his first roll, if you get a 1, 2, 3, or a 4, you've destroyed it. On his first roll, he had a 4, so that took care of that. I guess he could use the rest of his movement points, because he had 3, so he could take another 2 to get back out into here. Maybe we'll do that to keep him out there. What happened down here, we're just about to reveal those, not yet, I want to do it on camera here. This one, we were able to find one of the hostages. So I have some units, I have this unit out here that's stacked on top of him. It's under our control now. His movement allowance is only 2, so that's going to take us a little bit of time. And what I've done for some unforeseen reason, if something happens, there's a guy here, there's a couple of guys down here just waiting to get him onto one of the darters. And then of course, because we destroyed that one, we were able to move this marker up to turn 14. And while you're here with me, why don't we reveal these 2 and see what we get here. So we have an 8-3-4. And can you fucking believe it? There you go, the other hostage is here. So that makes our game go swimmingly. All we need to do is basically just kill this unit, because I'll have to read about it, but I don't think that you can rescue the hostage if it's still in an enemy occupied room, or space rather. So the first attempt will be to kill this unit here before we can even think about rescuing that hostage. And if we can, that's just going to be mass exodus. I don't even think I'll attempt to do any more damage in there. I think we'll all just head for the ships. When you leave the Xenon ship, it's the same thing as if when you were coming. You still take on laser fire. I don't know, maybe if I sacrifice some guys I can destroy some of the lasers. I haven't really thought about that yet. I honestly didn't think that this would happen. So the more ships you have, the same thing is in reverse. The more chances you have of getting hit, and then the damage that'll take place. The good thing, of course, is if the ships are so heavily populated, which they will be due to the amount of guys that we have left over still, even if we do take some casualties, it can be one of my soldiers that'll take a casualty as opposed to one of the hostages. There we go. I can't even believe it. Let's see how this. So we're in game turn 10. And this is where we're sitting at. We have a bunch of units back on board, some darters. One of the hostages is right at the door. Next turn we'll be able to jump on the darter. Got a few more units coming down here. We managed to do kind of mass destruction in here, destroying most of the laser pods except for one. We took out everybody except for this guy, and we've really got a Terminator syndrome going on here. He kind of worked his way through and killed a couple of people, the last one being here, then is moving towards us because we have the hostage and a couple of our people down here. He just came out the door and did a ranged combat with this guy. He had to roll a 1 to kill, a 2 to incapacitate, anything else would do nothing. Fucking guy rolled a 1, so that's this unit gone. Which adds to our stack. You can see our stack has grown a little bit. Theirs has really grown. Now, again, there is a unit, if I can do this on camera, there is a unit with this guy, these 2 Lancers. Oh, actually, let me take that back. It was only, I better read about that, because it might have only taken that Lancer unit, that double Lancer unit, down to a 1 Lancer unit. I should check first before I do that. So it might actually just get flipped. Either way, this guy is still, you know, his movement is a 4, whereas the maximum our hostage can move is a 2. So I may have to send a couple of these units back up the hallway here to help guard her, because this guy is just going to keep coming at us unless we can manage to kill him. Then we'll be okay, but we'll see what happens. So that ended our game turn 10, and we are now in game turn 11. Things are looking good, but again with this game, these last few turns have just been intense, with everybody scattering and leaving rooms. The good thing is, because we didn't activate many units in any of these rooms, and even the ones where we did, they stayed flipped, which means they're not activated, they can't move. There's really nothing they can do because we're out of their range for a lot of the Xenon movement phase stuff. So I mean, we're only really dealing with one random Xenon unit here that we have to take care of. So we'll see what happens, but I've got a good feeling about this, that we're actually going to make it out of this place alive. There we have it. 4 darters stacked within the limitations, because you can only have 7. So it's 2, 4, 5, 6 in there, 4 in there, 3, 4 in there, and 4 in there. So yeah, we're good. Now we have 1 laser pod empty. According to the evacuation, oh sorry, and that's evacuation. We're not evacuating. Departing darters breach may never be replaced. Evacuation segment, sorry, 1 second. Yeah, so I guess that is evacuation. During any evacuation segment, any or all darters may detach from the Hive and go into deep space at the Terran player's option. Departing ships may be attacked by intact laser pods at the Xenon player's option. A departing ship's breach is permanently removed from the map. During the immediately following outer defense segment, the Xenon player assigns each intact laser pod to one departing ship and rolls a die once for each laser pod. For each roll of 1 through 3, the Terran player must roll on the darter damage table to determine damage to the ship being fired at. Departing darter's breach may never be reemplaced. A darter may only depart if its breach is closed and at least one Space Marine is in its holding box, which we have. A darter may never be fired at after the end of the outer defense segment following the evacuation segment of its departure. Okay, so there we go. So now I guess we're going to start the evacuation process. Yeah, I'm just going to reread that, get myself ready here. I'll be right back and we'll roll this. So the way that I read that, a departing ship's breach is permanently removed from the map. During the immediately following outer defense segment, the Xenon player assigns each intact laser pod to one departing ship and rolls a die for each laser pod. So if I removed all 4 of these, he only has 1 laser pod left. So he'd basically get 1 roll, where if it's a 1 through 3, we would do some damage to one of these. It would be my choice which one. Or no, it would be his choice. So, I mean, obviously, the Xenon player would want to fire at one of these with the hostages. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to remove these breach markers. The Capella stays there because there's nobody in it. So those will go back in there. Here we go. Let's see if he does any damage. For each roll of 1 through 3, the Terran player must roll on the darter damage table. So we'll see what happens here first. And it's a 4. So it's a miss, which means that, lo and behold, the ship can go into hyperdrive. It can do whatever the hell it wants now because we're clear and we're gone. So, victory in a rescue attempt depends on the success of the mission. The mission was not aborted. We rescued both the hostages. Hostage is considered rescued if he/she left the Hive in a darter and was not killed by outer defense fire. That is what was happened there. Yeah. Well, holy ship nuts. We rescued the hostages, and we were pretty damn successful too, even if we were doing the other mission where it was to kill as many Xenon forces. I'm pretty sure we kicked their ass in that regard as well too. So I'd say that was a successful game, and it took us to game turn 17. After playing that first one that you saw the videos for, it just seemed to make sense as far as like, apparently the first thing to do is to go straight to the engine rooms and start destroying stuff. So you can get that game turn marker gone to see when they go into hyperdrive, then completely take it out of the equation. And that seemed to happen around game turn 5. So even if we did go with the expanded rules here, where you do this hyperdrive check, you only start to do it during game turn 7. So I think we made it even under that before we even had to check. So that's the tactic for sure, going straight for there. It was still an exciting game. It was still a great game. I honestly can't think of a flaw with this game or the solitaire system. I mean, now, because I assigned 80 resource points at the beginning of the game for the Terran player instead of 70, because I'm assuming that was a typo, that could be something that would change, because I had a lot of units. I had another ship's worth of guys, basically. So maybe next time I play, I'll just do the 70 resource points and see how that goes, as opposed to the 80. But, man, hella good game.